Also at the Maniacs Extravaganza.
Yes, but the first time I met you, I think it was at Romance.
Right, right.
Yeah, so
You give great sessions, great sessions. You
thank
have a really positive, wonderful light.
Oh, you're such a sweetheart. You said that about my phone. She called me the other day and it was her. She said something about my voice message. And I'm like, I haven't listened to that message in I don't know how long. So now I got to call myself to hear what I sound like because she said she said, Lisa, I was having a really challenging day and I heard your message and such and such. And I'm like, well, shoot, what did I say? I need to listen to that message for myself for sometimes. So, okay. So Patricia Sargeant. She's a national best-selling and award-winning author who writes romantic suspense and contemporary romance. She writes the Sister Lou mystery, cozy mystery series as Olivia Matthews. She also has written 3 contemporary romance series under her Regina Hart pseudonym: the Brooklyn Monarchs series, the Finding Home series, and the Anderson Family series. Oh, my lady, you are a series wonder. We love series around this camp, so that's an awesome thing. Um, so you're with us today. Are you going to read for us, or we're going to do a chat with you?
I would love to chat with you, ladies. And
Cool.
if there are any guys in the background.
Cool. Let me see
Hi,
if
Roy.
we can find Stephanie. She raised her hand. Let's see if we're going to get her back in here to do her thing. But first and foremost, what is your current book?
Oh, thank you for asking. The last book that I have out is actually a re-release. I recently re-released the first 3 books in my Brooklyn Monarchs sports romance series. And my goal had been to wrap up that series because it was always supposed to be a 7-book series. But the publisher, well, let's not go there. So I was going to release the final 3 on my own. But then, those are my recent releases. And then in 2021, I'm launching a new cozy mystery series with Hallmark Publishing. It's the Peach Coast Library Mysteries. And the first book, which comes out March 2021, is Murder by Page 1.
Oh, nice, nice. I'm going to put something on the screen that is one of your other books, though, The Heated Rivalry.
That'll work for me.
He knows how to win her surrender. What a tagline. That seems pretty hot. He looks like he's like, I got this. And she's looking like, yeah, well, whatever. Love that cover. So
thank you.
I'm gonna turn it over to Stephanie as soon as she unmutes here so we can get it going.
Hey, Stephanie.
Hello, Patricia. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Now that I'm on. Sorry for the confusion.
Oh, no problem.
You've told us a little bit about yourself, and Lisa had the pleasure of doing my introduction. But can you tell us what your experience was like publishing your first book?
Okay, and I hope you guys all have some tissues ready because it's a long, sad story. So when I was an aspiring author, there was a call from a publisher, Kensington Publishing, specifically for African American romances. So of course I jumped on the call. I sent out my synopsis and the first 3 chapters. And I waited a couple of months. Now, I think that everybody knows that traditional publishing can take a minute. So I waited a while, but then months had gone past. And I followed up and they said, well, we don't have a record of it, so could you go ahead and send us your whole manuscript? Well, I was really excited. So I slipped that puppy in the mail. And now a year goes by. And I'm following up, and we're getting ready to read it. 2 years goes by. We've read it, and we're thinking it over. 2 years plus goes by, and I just decided to put that out of my head. Obviously, nothing's going to happen here. I've been following up, and nothing's happening. And the thing that threw me is that it was a specific call for African American romances. It wasn't like I was just blindly setting it to them. So that I was disappointed, but then I moved on to start a mystery. And while I'm working on that, I was at my day job, and a coworker who I really like, but he was a little bit, on the edge. He was extra. He came to my office one day to talk about a project, and I'm smiling at him because he's a nice guy. He's a nice guy. But in my mind, I'm thinking, how am I going to get him out of my office? Because he was going on for a while, and I had work to do. The phone, my office phone starts ringing. It's a 212 number. I don't recognize it, but I thought, oh, I'm going to use this opportunity to get him out of my office. So I said, I've been waiting for this call. And he immediately got up and apologized and walked out. And I picked it up, and it was Kensington. So I was very excited about that.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us. You have a philosophy, and that is you don't write because you have something to say. You write because you have something you want us to hear. Can you expound on that?
Oh, thank you for asking, Stephanie. My journey to storytelling has kind of evolved as I've gained a bit more confidence, not just as a storyteller, but also as a person. And I realized when I first started this journey, I wanted to tell stories. But I think that we've all become aware that there are issues in the community that we can actually address through our stories. And as I've been gaining confidence as a storyteller, I've been taking advantage of that platform to kind of slip things in that I want people to talk about. And to me, my best example of that is when I worked on Campaign for Her Heart as part of Lane Adrian Jordan's 12-book series, Decades, A Journey of African American Romance. Now, I'm not sure how many of you might be aware of that series. You might want to check it out, Decades, A Journey of African American Romance. My book was Campaign for Her Heart, and I was writing it. It came out in 2018 after this administration kind of broke my heart. And in that story, I address certain things like police brutality and our public servants saying one thing to us so that they could get in power. And then once they get their seat, they forget about the community. So that's what I mean when I say my motivation for telling the stories that I tell isn't so much because I have something to say. It's because there are things that I want you to hear.
Okay. Thank you for that. So you write the steamy contemporary romance, but you also write the cozy mysteries. Which one do you find more challenging to write?
Ooh. Well, I think they both have different challenges. I think because on the one hand, the cozies with the murder investigations and the different suspects, it could get a little hard keeping track of who's supposed to be the villain and what the clues are to shine the light on one person over another, or maybe I want to switch the spotlight to twist up the plot. But then conversely, with the contemporary romances, it could be a little challenging keeping the couple apart because you don't want to get too mean.
Right.
You want to put obstacles in the way of their romance, but you don't want to get too mean. And sometimes I think I can get a little mean.
I can appreciate that. Do you prefer to write one over the other, or does it depend on your mood?
That's an excellent question, Stephanie. The reason I got into the cozy mysteries is that I wanted to work my way back to romantic suspense. when I first started, my first books were You Belong to Me and On Fire, and they're romantic suspense. And my goal, my dream had always been to write romantic suspense and science fiction fantasy. But then allegedly, the bottom fell out of the romantic suspense industry. So the publishers moved me to contemporary romances. And I remember saying to my husband, I don't know if I can plot a story without a corpse. So it was a little disappointing not having the dead bodies in my stories anymore. So I've been trying to work my way back, and I was able to do that with the cozy mysteries. And I still have my, pardon me?
Go ahead.
And I still, thank you. I still have my romance in the cozy mysteries. I still have a touch of romance in them.
Romance is in everything. You can't get away from it.
I agree.
Do you see a difference in treatment from the publishing houses between the genres, between romance and the cozies? Is one better treated than the other?
Oh, it's so funny you should ask that. When I was writing for Kensington, writing the Sister Lou mysteries for Kensington, I noticed a lot more involvement with the publisher and the editorial board in promoting the cozies. I was actually getting 4-color ads promoting my book. But I don't remember getting that with my romances. Now that I'm with Hallmark, I'm not sure. They're very interested in their cozies. I think they started with romance, and now they're doing more cozies.
So. Speaking of treatment, how do you address your reviews? Do you look at your reviews? Do you use that as a way to evolve as a writer?
Oh, thank you for that question. Yes, and I'm gonna just keep it 100. Sometimes the reviews can sting a little bit, like you're like, but there's always, I think there's always something that you can learn when you remember you're not getting. We just have to keep this in perspective. These reviews are not, generally speaking, they're not meant to hurt. It's feedback that really can help you. And one of the common messages that I had received in my reviews is that I spent a little bit too much time with my descriptions, and so I've embraced that, and I've pulled back some on the description. So I know that some authors say, oh, I can't read my reviews. I can't read my reviews. But I think that you miss an opportunity. You just have to, it's like Michael Jackson was always saying, it comes from love. So that's how I like to look at it. I don't think people are trying to hurt me, right? Right? So it's coming from a place of love.
I appreciate that. What do you do to celebrate once you've turned in your manuscript and it's done until you have the book in your hand?
Oh, I remember celebration is very important. I think that people don't put enough emphasis on celebrating milestones, even the little ones, you know? So when I first started, every time I would turn in a manuscript, I would get a big cookie, like a cookie as big as my head from Cheryl's Cookies. And I would either go for a walk or go for a run. Now I throw down with some Ben and Jerry's.
Any particular flavor?
Oh, honey, no, I'm not that particular.
Ben and Jerry's. Okay. Well, tell us, how long have you been writing?
My first book was published I've been published since 2006, but I've been writing since I was in elementary school. Because when I was 9 years old, I realized that I needed to be a storyteller. And I wrote my first historical romance when I was 12. And it
Okay.
was really horrible.
It's subjective.
No,
Does
no.
Well, can you tell us a little bit more about the inspiration behind Murder on the First Page, Peach Coast Mystery?
Right. It's Murder by Page One, a Peach Coast Library mystery. And let me tell you, a Peach Coast Library mystery series is my way of giving honor and admiration and respect to libraries and librarians. Because if it were not for libraries, and especially librarians, I wouldn't be where I am today. I love libraries. Like, I would probably put you to sleep talking about how much I love libraries. But so that's why my heroine is a librarian, and she's like a native New Yorker, born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. But she has not gotten opportunities working for the New York Public Library System. So she applies for a job with a new library in this small coastal Georgia town. It's fictitious, but it's loosely based on St. Mary's, Georgia. And the name of the fictitious small town is Peach Coast Library. So you have like a fish out of water, going to a native New Yorker going to the small town. So she's trying to adjust to small town life and all the Georgia colloquialisms, and the Georgia food versus the New York food, and soda versus pop or Coke, and in this first book, Murder by Page One, one of her new best friends is a bookstore owner who has this book event. And just as the event starts, they discover a dead body in the bookstore. Want me to tell you who did it? Ha, just joking.
that'll put a damper on things. So do you how far in advance do you plan your books? And do you come up with the titles first? How does that work?
Oh, it's so funny. Okay, I'm gonna keep it 100, and this is gonna show you an ugly side of my personality. So I'm at this book festival, and I'm sitting next to this other cozy mystery writer, and all of these readers are coming up to the writer, and they're in love with the titles of the books, and I can't blame them. They're great titles. Um, and I thought, I need to come up with better titles for my books. I need a really good title. And then Murder by Page One popped into my head. It was the first time that I'd come up with a title before I came up with a story. Usually I come up with a protagonist before I come up with the title. Usually the title is the hardest thing for me. So I just backed it out from that.
I can help you with that. I can come up with the titles. It's the stories that I have a hard time with, unless it's a children's story.
You have some great children's stories.
Thank you. Thank you. So when do you write best? Do you have a particular time of the day or evening? Do you have a special room?
Oh, this is my room. This is where I write my stories. And I prefer to write them in the morning, because I think that we can all agree that if you get started, the later you get started in the day, the more interruptions there are to your day. So I've got to get started in the morning.
Who is your biggest cheerleader?
Oh, I'd have to say my husband. Yeah. But when I first started writing, getting serious about it, he bought me, this is to date myself, it was a word processor. it was shortly after we got married. He bought me a word processor, and so I started inputting all of my handwritten notes for what would become On Fire into the word processor. And I was shopping my manuscripts, but it wasn't going anywhere. I got an agent. We weren't getting any contracts, no callbacks. It wasn't getting anywhere. So my sister bought me this book, How to Write a Romance. And in the back, it mentions the Romance Writers of America. And it suggests that you call your library to find your local chapter. So I found a chapter, and I went to the first meeting. Well, I'm an introvert. I was very uncomfortable. I went to one meeting and I was like, oh, I can't do this again. It took everything out of me. So the next month, he noticed that I didn't go to a meeting. And the third month, he said to me, well, just give it one more chance. Just give it one more chance. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. It's fine for you to tell me to do what to do, but you never do it. You know, whole big argument. And but I went, and it was great. They remembered me from 2 months before. They were so friendly. So I stayed, and I learned what I did not know that I didn't know about writing. And then I got my contract.
I'm glad you went back. I'm glad your husband pushed and pulled.
Yeah,
for
but
you
he
to go
wouldn't have
back.
done it. He wouldn't have done it. He could give
But
advice, but he can't take advice.
but he pushed you. So do you
Oh, I think you muted yourself. I can't. I think I lost the audio.
it's saying the host muted me. Can you hear me?
Oh, I can. Yeah.
Okay. Do you write full time?
I do now. I do now. My original plan had been, see, I had been laid off 3 times in my career. And I was working for this company, and the signs were there that things were not going well. So I said to my husband, well, I'm going to come up with this 5 to 7 year plan to save up some money and leave this company so that I can try this writing stuff full time. I kid you not, within a month of my telling my husband that I had this 5 year plan, I was downsized. So, as I like to say, I didn't leave my job. My job left me. So now, I'm looking for something, but I'm really trying to make a go of the writing as well. Because at my age, I get these, hey, thanks for applying, but we prefer someone who wasn't a month away from collecting a pension.
Trisha,
Well,
I'm going to hop in here now because we got to wrap this up in 4 minutes. We have another guest that's coming on, and he is going to be sliding out of here. And I've needed to get Stephanie to have a little time in to tell us a little bit about her book and what she writes so she can get some time in with the audience.
well, thank you, Patricia. Hi, everybody. I'm SF Hardy. I am a children's author and librarian. I have a new book, Dancing Monkeys in My Soup. Yes, the monkeys are dancing in the soup, and they are small enough to dance in soup because they're pygmy marmosets. I'm also the founder of Get Litty Reading Readiness Program. It's a program for 3 to 5 year olds and their families to get ready to learn how to read. My mission in life is to cultivate a joy for reading. So I want to share that love for reading that I have, and also create lifelong readers for me and you all. So that is all I have to say about me. I thank you all, and I'm excited to be here at the Cavalcade of Authors with you.
Okay, Patricia, do you have any parting words before we bring on Stephen Barnes?
Oh, yes, thank you, Nalina. First, thank you all so very much for inviting me to this event. Cavalcades of Authors is just outstanding. And if you're saying that this isn't a real cavalcade because it's virtual, then the real one must be off the hook. And I do want to very heartfelt thank you to all of the readers who keep me lifted and who are encourage me in my work. So thank you so very much.
Thank you, Patricia.
Thank
Been a
you.
pleasure.
Good luck. The
Thank
pleasure's
you.
mine.
Yes, indeed. So did you give us all the places that people can find you?
You can, Patricia.
Oh, my website is patriciasargent.com. It's Patricia, SARGEANT.com.
And you can find me at sfhardybooks.com.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So in this next minute, I am going to bring up Stephanie because she's going to introduce Mr. Barnes. We're going to get him back in. He was in adjusting his screen, but we're going to get him back in because he's on next. So Stephanie, I'm going to ask to unmute you. Hold on.